Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning.
Rekha here.
Good morning, Rekha. Sorry, Rekha, मैं अभी ऑनलाइन ज्वाइन कर रही हूँ, राइट? तो मुझे स्क्रीन शेयरिंग का जरा चेक करना है. अभी आई थिंक मनीष अभी बाहर गया है. Hello, who's there in the classroom? I can't see you properly.
What's your name? उसको पूछ लेती हूँ.
Yeah, you are unmuted. You can talk. We can't hear you.
प्रदीप, unmute कर तिला.
Ma'am.
Yes, Pari.
Ma'am, I've just joined for like revision. Oh, good morning, ma'am.
Good morning.
I've just joined for revision as I'll be giving the first digital SAT in May, like for my in June actually.
In
So
June,
I'll
unmute
okay.
Pradeep.
this batch.
Okay.
Ma'am, where exactly are you?
Pardon?
Ma'am, like what are you currently doing in this one?
Okay, currently we are doing the grammar section.
Yes, ma'am. So like where exactly? Till where have you reached?
Okay, I'll get back. I'll get to
Okay,
you.
ma'am.
Right. Good morning, sir. Am I audible?
Hello, Pari. Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Can you hear me? Sir, Manish sir, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. बहुत कम आवाज है. आज आप ऑनलाइन ले रहे हैं मैडम क्लास?
हाँ sir, actually I was not able to come थोड़ी तबीयत ठीक नहीं थी. So I had spoken to Meena. So I hope it's okay.
Yeah, your sound is okay, ma'am.
Sound is okay.
मैडम जो बच्चे क्लास में आ रहे हैं हम उनको आज हार्ड कॉपी दे रहे हैं फॉर रीडिंग एंड राइटिंग मटेरियल.
ओके, एंड जो क्लास में नहीं आते उनको पीडीएफ शेयर हो गया है. ओके, थैंक यू सर. Okay, so good morning everybody. So can you just tell me your names who are in the classroom?
Nidhini and
Nidhini, you haven't been there for some time, right?
yeah, ma'am. This is my second attempt for SAT.
Okay. So we have Nidhini, yeah. So we have Nidhini and who else is there? Can I have your name?
Yes, sir.
Kesar. Okay, Kesar, you also haven't been, you were there last time, I think.
Yes.
Kesar, yeah. So you, sorry, I wasn't able to come to class today, so I hope it's okay. So we just have Pari online. Okay, Pari, just a moment, everybody. Pari, can I get back to you?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So you were asking about how far we have reached. Have you attended the sessions with Manish sir and Anubhav sir?
For the second attempt
Yeah.
strategy. Yes, ma'am, already.
Okay, that you
I
have.
talked to Manish sir also, so he just said disconnect with this batch.
Okay, fine. So when talking about you've got your volume PDF.
I actually have the ones I used last year. Are they the
Okay,
same?
no, there is a little difference in the paper pattern. and the portion also. So more or less the strategy and rules remain the same, only the question pattern has changed a little bit. So far we
Yes.
have done subject verb agreement, pronoun antecedent agreement, and verb forms,
Okay.
right? So you can just ask for the new PDF, or
Yes,
you can
ma'am.
collect the new volume from the branch, it will be better.
Okay.
Right?
I'll collect it from the.
Yeah, so you can collect the new volume, and more or less we had already done these topics. So in grammar, the only difference is approach to the questions. Yeah.
Okay, ma'am, could I have the PDF for right now? Like,
I will be sharing. I will be
Okay.
sharing the screen, so no problem. You can follow as we share the screen.
okay, ma'am.
Right.
Hello everybody. Pari, Sanvi and Tithi, आपका वीडियो ऑन करो प्लीज.
Good morning,
मेरा
Tithi.
तो on ही है actually.
Good morning, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Good morning, Sanvi.
तिथि, what happened?
Good morning.
आपका भी वीडियो ऑन चाहिए.
हाँ, मैं कर रही हूँ.
हाँ, good. Bye.
Okay, so okay, for the final time, can everyone in the classroom give me your names? I have Nidini and sorry. So I have Nidini and Kesar. Who else has joined in the classroom? Sorry, I didn't get your name.
I'm Charul.
Charul is there. Okay. Okay. So we will, I think most of you are there. So we will continue. So have you all got your material, study material, the new volume?
Yes.
Yeah. Tithi and Sanvi, have you got your PDFs?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, fine.
Yes, ma'am.
So I hope you're not having any problem with following so far. If you have any doubts from the previous sessions, please let me know before we move on. Any doubts so far? Yes, who has any doubts? Yes, tell me.
I mean, there was one question about TV and first TV.
About? Can you come forward a little? You can sit at the corner of the first bench so I can hear you clearly. So by the time everyone can at least, if you are following from your book, not really required, but still you can have your book open so that you can mark or write wherever you want to. So today we'll be doing subject modifier placement, right? And plurals and possessive nouns. We will try to cover both the topics.
I got the question.
Yeah.
Schilder and Brunskill hypothesized that phosphates were responsible for the growth of cyanobacteria. The experiment confirmed that their suspicions when the half of the lake containing the phosphates dashed with blue-green algae, which choice completes the text so that it conforms to the conventions of standard English.
Right.
Was teaming, were teaming, are teaming, and teams.
Yeah. So this is now when you identify the concept being tested, what is it? It's the tense of the verb, right? So tense plus the number. So what was your subject it is referring to?
Cyanobacteria. Phosphates, the experiment confirms cyanobacteria.
Cyanobacteria were teeming or was teeming?
Was teeming.
Is it one bacteria or more than one?
But bacteria we take as one. No?
Bacteria is the same in plural and singular. So when you say they were teeming, that means there was not one bacteria, there were more than one bacteria present. Yeah, so you will go with the plural form of the verb. Got it?
But in explanation it was given was teeming is right.
I think it should be were teeming. Right? So, yeah, because bacteria, when you talk about, it would be taken as plural. Yeah. Okay, let's continue. I'll just share the screen first. Okay, who else has joined now? Kshitij. Kshitij, can you have your video on?
Ma'am, I'm actually having some network issues. Would it be fine if I turn my video off?
Okay, you can keep your video up, but when we are interacting, I would want your video on.
Yes, ma'am, sure.
Right?
Yeah.
And please make sure that when I want to talk to you, you are there.
Yes, ma'am.
Kshitij, are you there?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, please try to keep your video on.
I have a camera problem for today. Is it fine if I take my video off?
Where are you today? Okay, Kshitij, I think you haven't been attending the classes so far, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So have you gone through whatever you have missed? Yes, Kshitij. Have you gone through whatever you have missed so far?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Do you have any doubts from what has been done?
No.
Okay. Good morning, Nishtha. Can you have your video on?
Yes, ma'am. Just a second.
Okay, so I hope everyone is settled down so we can begin. Okay. Now today we'll be talking about subject modifier placement. So those who have done it before, they know what it is about. Yes, Pari, I think we had done subject modifier placement earlier.
Yes, ma'am.
So you have an idea of what it is?
Yes, ma'am.
So what is a subject modifier placement about?
Ma'am, it's like an adjective or adverb that just enhances or gives something in detail to the sentence.
So is it just an adjective or adverb,
No.
or could it
No,
also
it
be
may
a
be.
phrase?
It could be a phrase.
It could be a phrase also, right? So now when we are talking about modifiers, what do modifiers do? They give a description. Yeah, they provide additional information or description about the noun or the subject that we are talking about, right? So we can have adjective modifiers, we can have adverbs as modifiers which give extra information or describe something. We can have participle modifiers, which is like a participle phrase, which is telling us a little more about, like we have an example, the boy riding up and down the street is tired. Now we could say the boy is tired, the boy riding up and down the street gives us a little more information about the boy. Yeah, what is the boy doing? So say the cabinets stuffed to the brim. So what is this doing? This is describing the cabinets. So whenever you have something which is describing the noun, that is what we call a modifier. Say the baby crying loudly and continuously kept her parents up all night. Running at high speed, the dog crashed. So the dog crashing into the wall is your main clause. And running at high speed is an additional phrase which is describing your subject. Now we could have phrases and clauses as modifiers. An entire clause can come up as a modifier. So the same way you can treat these as clauses also. Now the boy who was at the store. So where was the boy? It gives us some additional information. Now when we talk about adjective clauses, that is, it is describing. Now phrase modifier, like say a preposition phrase like near me, or please take a seat near me, or you can say the building was near the lake. Yeah, so all these are doing what are modifiers doing then? They are giving you information about the subject or the noun, right? So now why are we supposed to learn these? Because we are going to be concerned with faulty modifiers. That is, modifiers which are not placed properly. So the first type of modifiers not placed properly would be dangling modifiers. Yeah. So what are dangling modifiers? Dangling modifiers usually come in the beginning of the sentence. So any phrases that come in the beginning of the sentence are known as dangling modifiers. Those phrases which come in the middle of the sentence or the end of the sentence would be misplaced modifiers. So these are the two types of modifiers you will be dealing with, right? Now, when we talk about subject modifier placement, there are some rules that we need to follow. So first thing that a modifier should do is it should be next to what it is modifying. So it should be next to the subject. Now, if the modifier is in the wrong place or it is not describing what it is supposed to describe, then we say there is an error. Yeah, then we would call it a faulty modifier. So when we talk about the rules of subject modifier placement, these are the rules that you need to remember. First thing is modifiers must be next to what they are modifying. Yeah. So, and they must always match the subject of the main clause of the sentence. So if the modifier doesn't seem to talk about the subject that is supposed to be it is supposed to talk about, then you have to reframe the sentence in such a way that it gives clarity to the sentence. Yeah. Now, what you have to remember is always place the modifier as close as possible to the nouns they modify. Write it down. So these are the things that are most important, which you have to remember. Whether it is a dangling modifier or a misplaced modifier, the modifier must be as close as possible to the noun it is modifying. And it should match the subject of the clause. Right? So these are the main rules. Everyone got them down? Okay. Okay. So now we come to dangling modifiers. So when we talk about dangling modifiers, means they come in the beginning of the sentence, right? So now when we talk about modifiers, we are usually looking at phrases which are giving you additional information and they are at the beginning of the sentence and they should be followed by a comma. That is important. Any modifier should be followed by a comma and the noun or the phrase it is describing should be after the comma. That is what you have to be looking for. So now, why do we say why do we say it would be a dangling modifier? When maybe there is a comma after the modifier, but what comes after the comma is not the noun or the phrase that the modifier is talking about, right? So let's look at some examples. Coating the sidewalk, we trust through the heavy snow. What does the sentence mean? Now, if you see, we is the subject, right? Now, if we is the subject, are we coating the sidewalk and trudging through this heavy snow? Does it make sense? It doesn't seem to make sense, right? So if this doesn't make sense, what are we supposed to do? We have to change it in such a way that now coating the sidewalk is your modifier. What is coating the sidewalk? The snow is supposed to coat the sidewalk, right? But here, what is the, does it make sense in this sentence? Here it seems like we are coating the sidewalk. So we have to place the modifier near the subject it is modifying. So we can do it in different ways. Say we trust through the heavy snow coating the sidewalk. Now this makes sense, right? So when you are dealing with modifiers, what do you have to make sure? You have to double check the introductory modifier. What do we see? That the modifier should be close to the subject it is modifying. So it should be interacting. So we have to see what is coming after the modifier. Is the phrase that it is modifying coming after the modifier? Is it talking, what is the modifier talking about and what it should be talking about? Yeah. So in your question, there'll be a blank after the modifier, or maybe the modifier itself would be a blank. Yeah. So we have to see whether the modifier is near the noun it is modifying. Now, there are certain cases where we would come across possessive nouns. Now, when you get possessive nouns, you have to be careful. What is the possessive noun related to? Yeah. Now, if a noun follows the possessive, then the focus changes. Right? Let's look at this one. Long and tangled, it was difficult to comb the child's hair. Now we have a pronoun coming in between. So long and tangled, it was difficult. Is it giving clarity of what is long and tangled? No, right? So what do you think is long and tangled? The child's hair, or it was difficult? So it was difficult to comb the child's hair, which was long and tangled. That would make sense. Yeah. Or we may say the long and tangled. Suppose your blank is still in the beginning. Yeah. Or maybe the your sentence doesn't allow you to change the position of the modifier. So we can say long and tangled, the child's hair. So we bring the subject closer to the modifier. Long and tangled, the child's hair was difficult to comb. That makes sense? Okay. Now let's move on. Now we have some pairs of sentences here. You have to choose the one which is not a dangling modifier. That means which one is a correct form of the sentence. So the first one is meticulous and punctual. David's work ethic is admirable. And the second one is meticulous and punctual. David has an admirable work ethic. So what is your modifier? Meticulous and punctual. You have a comma after that. What should come after the comma? What is meticulous and punctual? What is this describing? Is it describing David's work, or should it be describing David?
It's describing David.
It should be describing David. So which one would be correct? First one or second one?
The second one.
Second one should be correct, right? Okay, let's look at some more. Walking through the cemetery, the trees became long-fingered goals. What does this tell you? Walking through the cemetery, the trees became. So were the trees walking through the cemetery? No, right? The trees couldn't be walking through the. So there should be a person. So as I walked through the cemetery, the trees became. Right? That would be correct. Now let's look at this. After reading your notes, your case is not supported. Does this make sense? After reading your notes, comma, your case is not supported. Who read the notes? Or what was the conclusion after reading the notes? Not clear, right? So after reading the notes, I cannot support your case. Would that be better? Right? Okay, let's look at this one. With a ferocious appetite for extracurricular activities, Sergeant Baker has a remarkable work ethic. Now, what is the modifier? With a ferocious appetite for extracurricular activities. So who has a ferocious appetite for extracurricular activities? Now, if you see, the next one is Sergeant Baker's work ethic is remarkable. And here it says Sergeant Baker has a remarkable work ethic. So what is the modifier describing? It should be describing Sergeant Baker or his work ethic. Which one is supposed to be correct? First one or second one? Yes, my friends in class?
Ma'am, we can't see the code distance.
Turn it around towards you. Or come a little closer towards the first bench, you can see the board more clearly.
The first one.
Is it better? I think you can move to this side of the benches, so I can also hear you clearly.
Ma'am, I guess the first one should be correct.
First one should be correct. Yeah, because it with a ferocious appetite, we can't say that the Sergeant Baker's work ethic had a ferocious appetite for extracurriculum. It should be Sergeant Baker had a ferocious appetite. Okay. Now let's look at this one. Exhausted and weak, the soldiers' uniforms were covered in frost. And exhausted and weak, the soldiers were covered in frost.
नंदिनी मैम, सॉरी फॉर द इंटरप्ट.
Yes, sir.
आपको क्लासरूम में आवाज आ रही है प्रॉपर तीनों को? आ रही है ना? ओके, थैंक यू मैम.
Thank you. Okay, so here we have exhausted and weak. This is your modifier. We have a comma after that. Now, what is exhausted and weak? The soldiers' uniforms or the soldiers?
The soldiers.
The soldiers. Now, we can say the uniforms were covered in frost, fine, but we won't say that the uniforms were exhausted and weak. So, the second option would be correct. Now, let's look at this one. After being beaten and deflated, the baker shaped and seasoned the dough. Does that make sense?
No.
Yeah.
It was being beaten.
Now the baker couldn't be beaten and deflated. The dough should be beaten and deflated. So we get the dough next to the modifier. Exhausted from running home in the rain, Erin's jacket was soaking wet. Now, what are we modifying over here? Erin's jacket. Can we say Erin's jacket was exhausted from running home in the rain? No. Erin would be exhausted from running home in the rain. So this is these are a few examples of how your modifier works. Yeah. Okay. This was about the dangling modifiers. Now we come to misplaced modifiers. Now, when we talk about dangling, yes, Kshitij, you were saying something?
In the previous slide.
Okay, just a moment. Yeah.
Shouldn't meticulous and punctual divide with work ethic? Wouldn't they work ethic
Meticulous and punctual. When you say is work ethic meticulous and punctual, or the person is meticulous and punctual? Would you say that Kshitij, say Kshitij's work ethic is meticulous and punctual? So when you are in a little bit of a confusion, reframe the sentence to see what the modifier is talking about, right? So here, David's work ethic is not meticulous and punctual. I wouldn't say Kshitij's work ethic is meticulous and punctual. I would say Kshitij is meticulous and punctual, right?
Yes.
Got it? Okay. Okay, now coming to misplaced modifiers. Now we saw dangling modifiers were in the beginning of the sentence, and we had to match the subject that the modifier is talking about. Now coming to the misplaced modifiers. Now misplaced modifiers are usually found either in the middle of the sentence or at the end of the sentence. Yeah. So now they won't ask you whether it is a dangling modifier or a misplaced modifier. Your work is to see whether the modifier is doing the work it is supposed to do. Okay. So now the same rule would apply. When do we say it is a misplaced modifier? When the phrase that is the modifier which is describing something is not close enough to the thing it is describing, right? Say, let's look at this example. The jacket was too small on the sale rack. Now we are talking about the jacket being too small on the sale rack. Now on the sale rack is a modifier. What is it referring to? It's more like comparing the size of the jacket to the sale rack, right? Instead, if we say the jacket on the sale rack was too small, so on the sale rack is telling you where the jacket was placed. So our main clause is the jacket was too small. Now, when you're talking about modifiers in the middle of the sentence, we can separate the modifiers with the help of commas and look at the rest of the sentence to see what the main subject would be. Now, if we remove on the sale rack, the jacket was too small, that makes sense. Where was the jacket? On the sale rack. So that's just simply what the modifier would be doing, right? It would be describing where the jacket was. Okay, let's look at this one. Ray wore his one colored shirt to the job interview, which was stained with mustard. Now, what was stained with mustard? The job interview? Yeah. Now, would we say the job interview was stained with mustard? Surely not. Is one colored shirt would be stained with mustard. So we move the modifier closer to the thing it is modifying or the subject it is modifying. So Ray wore his one colored shirt, which was stained with mustard to the job interview, would make better sense. So he wore his one colored shirt to the job interview, which was stained with mustard. Yeah, so that comes in the middle. It is describing the shirt. So when you are talking about fixing misplaced modifiers, as in these sentences that we just saw, what did we do? We rearrange the words in the sentence. Yeah. So when you rearrange the words in the sentence, you get the subject that is being talked about closer to the modifier. So the modifier, again we come to the same rule, modifiers should be closer to the word or the subject that it is modifying, right? So the when you're talking about dangling modifiers, the subject should be immediately after the modifier. When we talk about misplaced modifiers can be in the center of the sentence or at the end of the sentence. So your subject should be next to, immediately before or after the modifier. Now if you look at this sentence, she handed her brownies to children wrapped in foil. Does it make sense? No, right? The children surely were not wrapped in foil. What should be wrapped in foil? Brownies. So we change the position of the, or we rearrange the sentence a little. So we can say she handed out brownies wrapped in foil to the children. So it becomes clear. So the main purpose of these this exercise is to bring clarity to the sentences. So when the modifiers are either dangling or misplaced, or we can say they are faulty, the sentence will not have clarity. Now, if you look at though cooked and seasoned to perfection, the taste of ketchup covered octopus was revolving. Now, if you see here, this modifier is in the beginning of the sentence, right? What was cooked and seasoned to perfection? The taste or the octopus? Octopus should come nearer to the modifier. Yeah. So would this make sense? Though cooked and seasoned to perfection, the ketchup covered octopus had a revolting taste. That makes better sense, right? Okay. So now we come to the rule, just a recap of the rules of how to fix the misplaced modifiers. We'll take this example. Now you have three sentences over here, three options. You have to see which one gives you clarity and is the best placed modifier. Now here, first thing what you do is identify the modifier. First one says most participants selected a lunch from the menu that was high in sugar. Now we can say that was high in sugar is the modifier here. So what is it? What was high in sugar?
The menu.
The menu or the lunch? The lunch was high in sugar. So you have to look for an option which places the lunch next to the modifier. So which one is rearranged to place the lunch nearer to the modifier?
Second.
The second one or the third one? So the second one says most participants selected a lunch that was high in sugar from the menu. And the third says most participants selected from the menu a lunch that was high in sugar. Now, if you look at number 2, a lunch that was high in sugar from the menu. They selected from the menu. If it comes closer, that would be better framed, right? Now here we see lunch that was high in sugar is fine, but from the menu is again a little misplaced. So if you look at 3, most participants selected from the menu a lunch that was high in sugar. That gives you clarity, right? What did they select and what was high in sugar, right? So when you have these options, even when you come to writing, your sentences should have clarity. So if clarity is missing, then you know that the sentence is not correct. Okay, let's look at this one. The Girl Scouts went wild when they were told that they had raised $1 million by selling cookies at the troop meeting. Now, if you break the sentence down, what is it talking about? It says the Girl Scouts went wild when they were told that they had raised $1 million by selling cookies at the troop meeting. So where did they sell the cookies? At the troop meeting. Yeah, that's what we get from the first sentence. And they were told that they had raised $1 million. Now, what is the focus of the first sentence? That they had sold the cookies at the troop meeting. Yeah. Now, if you look at the second one, the Girl Scouts went wild when they were told at the troop meeting that they raised $1 million by selling cookies. Now, they went wild when they were told at the troop meeting. That brings out a little more clarity to the sentence. Yeah. So they went wild and they were told at the troop meeting that they had raised $1 million by selling cookies. So they hadn't sold the cookies only at they hadn't sold the cookies at the troop meeting. They had an activity where they had sold the cookies. Right? So here the first one will not be selected. Is the second one that would be a better sentence, which brings a little more clarity to the meaning of the sentence. Right? Okay, now let's look at this one. Neil Armstrong made history as the first man to step on the moon in 1969. Seems to be correct, right? Okay, now let's see the next one. In 1969, Neil Armstrong made history as the first man to step on the moon. Does the meaning change in some way? Yes or no? Does it seem to change? Okay, now let's look at the third version. Neil Armstrong made history in 1969 as the first man to step on the moon. Yeah. So now here we see made history and in 1969. So in 1969, this is your modifier. So if you look at the first one, Neil Armstrong made history as the first man to step on the moon in 1969. So this was the year 1969, and in 1969, many other people also went to the moon, but Neil Armstrong was the first one. Yes, is there any problem?
Mom, I have to go to water.
Okay. So when you're looking at the first sentence, what is it telling you? It seems to tell you that in 1969, Neil Armstrong was the first person among all the others who set foot on the moon. Right? But as you know from history, that isn't the case. Now, if you look at the next one, in 1969, Neil Armstrong made history as the first man to step on the moon. That gives you a little more clarity that this was the year that Neil Armstrong made history as the first person to step on the moon. Right? Now, if you look at the third one, Neil Armstrong made history in 1969. Now, this again is telling you that he made history in 1969 as the first man to step on the moon. Now, okay, so when you're talking about Neil Armstrong made history in 1969, is that clear, or the second one is better? Now we are talking about the modifier. What is the modifier doing? So in 1969, Neil Armstrong made history. These are the two phrases that you have. So what is being connected better? The second one is being connected better. In 1969, Neil Armstrong made history. What did he do? He was the first man to set on the moon. Yeah. So the importance of the modifier and the subject that it is talking about should be clear, right? Okay. Now we also have a few called limiting modifiers. What do you mean by limiting modifiers? They are usually adverbs which change the meaning of the sentence according to where they are placed. Yeah, so they may result in ambiguity. Say we look at this one. Martin knows hardly anybody and he hardly knows anybody. Is there a difference in meaning in the two? Right? So we have just changed the position of hardly. Martin knows hardly anybody or Martin hardly knows anybody. When we talk about the first sentence, what does it mean? Anybody will tell me? Yes? Who will tell me? What does the first sentence mean? No one? Look at the two. Now, Martin knows hardly anybody means out of the people present, or he doesn't really know any one of them. He hardly knows anybody means he doesn't know much about anyone. Right? Now, he hardly knows anybody would mean that all of the people present, he doesn't know anybody. First one would give you the sense that he doesn't know much about anybody. Second one would be he doesn't know many of the people, right? Okay, now let's look at this one. Only Martin eats pears and Martin eats only pears. These two are very clear. Completely different meaning. First one would say only Martin eats pears. So all of out of say all his friends, we can say only Martin eats pears. Second one, Martin eats only pears among all the other fruits. Yeah. So if you change the position of one word, the entire meaning of the sentence changes. These are called limiting modifiers. Say let's begin. Due to severe concussion, she almost lost all memory of the accident. Right? Second one is due to severe concussion, she lost almost all memory of the accident. Do these sentences mean the same or are they different? They're different, right? So what does the first one mean? She almost lost her memory, but she didn't really lose it. Yeah. Second one means she lost almost all her memory. That is, there is very little memory that is left. So just placing the word almost in different positions in the sentence changes the meaning of the sentence. So here's where you may get a question where you have to look at the meaning what the sentence is trying to convey. Accordingly, you will be placing your word. Okay, so now coming back to the modifier rules. First thing you do is identify this. Now, when you get a question, how will you know it is a subject modifier placement question? You won't be told that it is a subject modifier placement question. So how will you know? You have a longer blank and the options that you have words rearranged in different ways. So the arrangement of the words would be different. And if you look at the sentence also, there would be this phrase, maybe there will be a phrase in the sentence or in the options itself, which would be describing something. So you have to see what is it describing, and is it clear that the subject it is describing is next to what it is describing. Yeah. Now, what are you looking out for? Prepositional phrases at the beginning of the sentence, nouns after the comma. So this is what you need. We need a comma after the phrase in the beginning of the sentence or in the middle of the sentence, etc. The verb participles ending in ing, ed, or n. So what do? They give you an extra information. So anything of this sort, when you have verb, remember we did the verb participle. So the verb participle would also give you an extra information, but it should be that who is it talking about. Now, when you have gerunds also, the same thing. It was a swimming event. So we are talking about the swimming event was at the end of the day, right? So what are you looking at? When you're talking about gerunds, you have to see where the gerunds are placed. Or the bus was brimming, bus was hot, and it was a long waiting time. So you're waiting. What is it describing? It's describing the time. So you have to see how the gerunds are placed. So usually you will not get gerunds, but verb participles, prepositional phrases you may come across. So the main thing is modifier must be next to what it is modifying. Gerunds must be next to the noun doing the action. If the sentence starts with a descriptor, whatever comes after the comma must be the noun it is describing. So this is the format that you will be looking for. Modifier plus comma plus thing modified if it is the modifiers in the beginning. If the modifier is in the middle, then what do? You have to see whether the subject is in the before or after the modifier. Yeah. So you determine the error, eliminate the grammatically incorrect options, and another thing very important, go with the most concise answer. So in SAT, maybe you get two options. Both may seem to be correct, but one of them is wordy, one of them is concise. So you will go with the one that is concise. Yeah. And of course, you will be using the process of elimination to get to remove all the correct answers, narrow down on the right answer. Okay, let's look at this question. Everyone can see clearly? Yeah. The cuisine of the, if you have your volumes, you can see this is the question that comes before the classroom worksheet. So the cuisine of the Mapuche people of Chile often includes a traditional seasoning called marken, a blend of ground spices and smoked chili peppers dash. So you have to complete the sentence. You have 4 options given to you. Yeah. So now you read the given sentences carefully. What is it talking about? A traditional seasoning called marken. Right? So you know it is talking about marken. So your next sentence, a blend of ground spices and smoked chili peppers. If you go to the now here, what are you expecting? Something that tells you what is this blend, right? Or some more information. So a blend of ground spices and smoked chili peppers, this is your modifier. So what should you have next to the modifier? The noun or the subject, right? So what is the subject you expect? the Marken, right? So what will you eliminate? Culture
Option
de
A.
Cabra, I think we can eliminate this. This is not talking about Marken. Marken primarily consists of Culture de Cabra or goat's horn chili. So here the Marken has come in the beginning. Now C says the primary ingredient Marken is, so the primary ingredient Marken. So this is talking about a primary ingredient. Would that be correct?
No.
No, right? Now, Marken's primary ingredient, when we have already talked about the ingredients, right? Now, Marken primarily consists of, now if we plug this into the blank, a blend of ground spices and smoked chili peppers, Marken's primary ingredient is cacho de cabra or goat's horn chili. Does that make sense? So now here when we say a blend of ground spices, so what we should know, what is a blend of ground spices? So we will go with B, not D, right? So we have to first, what did we do? We first figured out what is this talking about. So the noun should come, or the subject should come after the modifier, right? Okay, now let's go on to the next question. So this is part of, you have this in your PDFs or your books. So we will be doing this together. Some of the questions we'll do together, some you will do for homework, right? Okay, let's look at the first one. Who wants to read it aloud? Somebody read it aloud. Who wants to volunteer to read it aloud for all of us? Anyone in the classroom? No? Pari, do you want to read it?
Okay, ma'am.
Yes, please go on.
Rabinal Akai is a pre-colonial Maya dance drama performed annually in Rabinal, a town in the Guatemalan highlands, based on events that occurred when Rabinal was a city-state ruled by a king. Dash had once been an ally of the king, but was later captured while leading an invading force against him. Which choice completes the text so that it conforms to the conventions of standard English?
Okay. Now here we have two sentences. So what do you think should come in this blank? It says, based on events that occurred when Rabinal was a city-state ruled by the king, Dash had once been an ally of the king that was later captured while leading an invading force. So somebody was, right?
Any person
Or
is mentioned.
now if any person, or now if you look at the previous sentence, it's talking about the Maya dance drama. Yeah, Rabinal Archie is a pre-colonial Maya dance drama performed annually in Rabinal. Yeah, and then it says, based on events that occurred when Rabinal was a city-state ruled by the king. What was based on events? The dance drama was based on events, right? So we need a phrase which will bring clarity that the dance drama is based on events. So if you look at the options here, we have Rabinal Archie tells the story of KHR Archie, a military leader who had once been an ally of the king. Yeah, if you plug it in that way. Or we can say KHR Archie, the military leader of the story of Rabinal Archie. Now, was KHR Archie based on the events? Yeah. Or is Rabinal Archie had once been an ally of the king? If you plug it in, that's what it will come to. Right? So that will be wrong. Now let's look at the third one. There was a military leader, KHR Archie, who in Rabinal Archie had once been an ally. So we know that Rabinal Archie is the dance form. The dance form cannot be an ally of the king. Yeah. And based on the events, we cannot say there was a military leader based on the events. Right? So this is also eliminated. Now we analyze the fourth option. The military leader whose story is told in Rabinal Archie, Kiche Archie. Now that is also a little ambiguous. Right? Why? Because the military leader, based on the events that occurred in the city ruled by a king, the military leader whose story is told by Rabinal Archie, Kiche Archie had been an ally of the king. It's rather not very clear what the sentence is trying to tell you. Yeah. So which one gives you clarity? A gives you clarity. Got it? Okay, let's look at the next one. Okay, this I won't help you with. You have to tell me the answer and why you get that as the answer. Yes, Nishtha and Sandvi, Kshitij, can you have your videos on? So here we say generated by seasonal storms far off the coast. Yeah, comma. That seems to be a modifier. No, okay, sorry. We haven't finished the first one. Okay, we'll focus on the second one first. Sorry. Having returned from the ocean to the stream where it was born. Dash, after which its offspring start the cycle anew. Now, having returned from the ocean to the stream where it was born, what is the it that we are talking about? The salmons, right? Now, which are the options that you will eliminate?
C and D. C and D.
You want to eliminate C and D. Okay, C and D we can eliminate right away because we won't say that the spawning and death of an adult salmon was born or the life cycle of the salmon was born. So now between A and B.
A option.
You think A is your answer? Okay, now take A, plug it back into the gap and read the entire sentence. Read it aloud with the option that you have plugged in. Yes.
Having returned to the stream where it was born. An adult salmon's life cycle ends when it spawns and dies, after which its offspring start the cycle.
So what does that mean to say? Having returned from the ocean to the stream where it was born, an adult salmon's life cycle ends when it spawns and dies, right? After which its offspring start the cycle anew. So who returned? The salmon's life cycle returned and ended. Yeah. Now if you look at A and B, they're very close to each other. But now let's plug in B. Having returned from the ocean to the stream where it was born, now B is worded differently. Yeah, let's see if it brings clarity. Where it was born, an adult salmon spawns and dies, completing his life cycle, after which its offspring start the cycle anew. So now if you see an adult salmon spawns and dies. So who returned? The adult salmon. What happened to it? It spawned and died, right? And this completed the life cycle. So completing, now again you see there's another thing which we call parallel construction of the sentence. Having returned, completing its life cycle, they're in the parallel construction. Now after which, now completing its life cycle, after completing its life cycle, its offspring start the cycle anew. So there's a flow in the sentence. The modifier seems to talk about the subject that is coming right next after it. So the subject is not the salmon cycle, the subject is the salmon itself, right? So we will not go with A, we would rather go with B. So there's a little difference in the construction of the two phrases or the two parts of the sentences. Right? Are you confused? Got clarity now? Now, what you have to do is you have to plug in the phrases that you get and see which one brings in clarity. Both may seem correct, but only one of them is correct, right? So when you are confused between two, what do? Which one brings you clarity and gives you a concise sentence? So in this case, B gives you clarity. Okay, let's look at the next one. While popular depiction might characterize surfing as a summer sport, the reality is that winter conditions are considered better for surfing. Yeah. Generated by seasonal storms far off the coast, dash. So we have four options again. Read the four options. Now here, if you read this phrase that is before the comma, you know this is the modifier. Generated by seasonal storms. Now we need something that is generated by seasonal storms. Yeah. So what could be generated by seasonal storms? If you look at A, surfers highly prize the large predictable sets. Now here your noun closest to the comma would be surfers. Are surfers generated by seasonal storms? No. Eliminate. Winter swells reach the shore as large predictable sets of waves. Now it is talking about winter swells. Could that be the answer? So winter swells that reach the shores as large predictable waves, sets of waves that are highly priced by surfers. So surfers comes last, your winter swells comes first. Now that could be an answer. We keep it. We see if C and D are better or can be eliminated. C says the shores cause large winter swells. Now the shores are not generated by the seasonal storms. This is eliminated. Winter is highly priced. Of course, winter again is not generated by the seasonal storms. So the only option is B. Right? Okay. Now we'll do one more together. And then the rest of them you will be doing for homework. Can you see the screen? I think something. Okay, can you see the question on screen?
Yes.
Okay. So read it carefully. This is a little complicated. Now the sentence is underlined and you have to correct it. So you have to choose the form that corrects the sentence as it should be. So something that would bring clarity to the sentence would be your answer. Read it carefully. Now you will get a little clue from from the first sentence. What is being compared you will get from the first sentence. So read the first sentence carefully and see what is being compared. It's talking about older models and current views, right? So when you say older models and current views, that means it's comparing the older models with the modern models that they are talking about in the next sentence. Now, the sentence that is underlined for you, does it bring in clarity? Your option A is a sentence as it is. So do you get clarity from the first one? Yes or no? Hmm? It doesn't give you clarity. So what is wrong in the sentence that is given to you? Anyone? Sanvi, can you tell me what is wrong in the sentence that is given to you?
Ma'am, actually, I found the answer to be C.
Okay.
So it's pretty similar, but the unlike part comes first, so it gives more clarity.
So here what is being compared, it says the Bohr model states that electrons travel in fixed paths around the nucleus, unlike the modern model of the atom. So here now the sentence that is given to you, it says that they travel in fixed paths around the nucleus, unlike the modern model of the atom. So here the focus is on the electrons traveling in fixed paths. Yeah, that's what is being compared. Now, here we have the Bohr's model states that electrons travel in fixed paths, right? Now, this should come nearer to unlike the modern model of the atom to bring clarity. So it's not about traveling in fixed paths unlike the modern model, but about the Bohr model stating it unlike the modern model, right? So your answer would be C. It says, unlike the modern model of the atom, the Bohr model states that electrons travel in fixed paths around the nucleus. So this brings in clarity to what is being compared, right? So anyone with any doubt on this? No? Nidini? Clear? Everyone in class clear? Okay. So now you have 4 more questions. If you see in your book, these 4 questions you will attempt on your own, right? So there's question number 5, 6, 7, and 8. Right? So mark them. And if you have any doubt, we will discuss this when we meet next time. Okay, now we will move on to our next part. Okay, so modifiers is clear how to deal with them, right? And what you are going to do is over the week, you are going to revise from your book all the rules, do the questions, and see if you have any doubts. Okay, now we will move on to our next topic, which is plurals and possessive nouns. It may seem very simple. It is simple, but yes, SAT may make it a little complicated with the questions they pose. So what do you mean? Now plurals we always use different forms of nouns which get into the plurals. Different words take different forms when you convert them into the plural. And what do you mean by possessive nouns? When you talk about words which show possession, right? So plurals will always refer to more than one thing, and possessive will always show possession. Now we will quickly go through some words and how they are converted into plurals, so that when we come to our questions, we know the exact form of the words. Usually you will, the most simplest thing to do is add an S or ES to the word to get the plural form. Say cats, house, houses, etc. Now, what will you do when you have S, X, Z, CH or SH at the end of the word? You will add an ES, right? Say truss, TRUSS, trusses, marsh, marshes. So adding ES makes you, gives you the plural. Tax, taxes, blitz, blitzes, right? Now, sometimes when you have Z at the end, certain words could also require double ZES. Say quizzes. Yeah. When you talk about quiz, how do you make it into a plural? Double ZES. Yeah, there are some exceptions somewhere. Okay. Now, if you have nouns ending in F or FE, say wife, you change it into VES. Wolf, again change it into VES. Life, lives, leaf, leaves. Now, some words changing ending in F do not convert to VES. Say roofs, beliefs. Beliefs is not VES, it is FS. So a little bit on the spellings. Chef is always chefs. Chief, again just chiefs. Now suppose you have a word ending in a consonant and a Y after that, right? So what do you usually do? Convert it into IES, like party, parties. Convert the Y to IES. Story, stories, nanny, nannies, city, cities. Yeah. Now suppose you have a vowel and Y. Say, if you have a simple word like boy, it's boys. Holiday, holidays. Yeah. We usually add an S after the Y if you have a vowel coming in. If you have a consonant, it is IES. If you have a vowel, it is just S. Now, if you have a consonant and O, say potato, what are you doing? You're adding ES, right? Tomato, ES, tomatoes. But there are also some exceptions coming in here, like photo. You won't say TOES, it's just TOS. Piano, it will be pianos, right? Hello, hellos. So usually you have a consonant plus O, you will be adding ES, but in some cases, you will just add an S. Okay, now let's look at the otherwise. Now, if you have an end ending in US, say cactus, what do? Plural of cactus is cacti. So anything ending in US becomes I. Locus, loci. You won't say locuses, right? Fungus, again would be fungi. So anything that ends in US usually converts to I. Stimulus would convert to stimuli. Syllabus, syllabi. Yeah. But again, there are exceptions, like octopus will convert to octopuses, because yeah, this is where the root of the word comes in. So if it is a Greek word and not a Latin word, it would be es. So walrus, again you have walruses, right? Now if you have a word ending in is, what do? Change to es. Yeah. So analysis, now these are usually words that have Greek root. Analysis would change to analysis, es. Crisis would change to crisis. Basis to basis, es will be added. So here is where you will get some words maybe in your questions where the ending is not correct. So you should know that how the plural happens to be when you get such words. So ellipsis, ellipsis. Now, if you have a singular noun that ends in on, say phenomenon, what is the plural? Plural would be phenomena, right? Criterion, your plural would be criteria. But now if you have volcano, that's also ending in, that's just ending in O, right? Now in case of volcano, both volcanoes with OS and OES are correct. Right? You have to see what your option is. Okay. Now we have something called irregular nouns, which are exceptions. Like child doesn't become childs, it becomes children. Goose becomes geese. So these are words that you have done all through your high school, but we will just go back to them so that we know we will not make that, we know that we don't make any mistake in the exam. Man changes to men, woman to women. Yeah. Tooth to teeth. Foot changes to feet, not foots. Mouse changes to mice. Person is not persons, it is people. You never say persons. Now you also have some nouns that don't change in form when you have a plural. Say sheep. Sheep remains sheep. Series remains series. Yeah. Species remains species. Now you have many other words also, like deer. You don't say deers. Yeah. You may make a list of all the words that do not change, or all the other irregular nouns, irregular pronouns. And now when you come to fish, the plural is usually fish, but there is a little catch. When you're talking about more than one species of fish, then we can use fishes. Right? There's only time when you would use the word fishes. Now, if you have hyphenated words like mother-in-law, what would the plural be? Would it be mother-in-laws? No. When you have a hyphenated word, you would see what is the main noun coming in. So here your main noun is mother. Mother changes to mothers. So it will be mothers-in-law or fathers-in-law, brothers-in-law. Yeah. Now, if you have grandmother, that is also a compound word. So again, you have grandmothers because mother is the main word coming in. Grandson, granddaughter, similarly, all these will go in, right? Okay, so now this was about the plural form of the nouns. Now we come to the possessive nouns. This is which is most important. What do you mean by possessive nouns? Nouns which show ownership or possession or is connected to something else. So usually we will be adding a apostrophe s to the noun to show possession, right? Say students' notes or trees, branches. So when we talk about possessive nouns, we have usually 4 kinds. Say the singular possessive, the plural possessive, yeah, or when we use a possessive as theirs, or the irregular possessive where we do not add apostrophe s. Yeah. So words, if you have, now here is where you will identify if you have a proper noun ending in s, what will you do? You will add an apostrophe s. If you have a plural ending in s, you add only apostrophe. You will not add apostrophe s, right? Now, if you have, say, two words coming together, like which we call mass nouns or uncountable nouns, sand or money, then you don't have a plural noun form of them. Yeah, so we will say sands. Now, if you have collective nouns like team or family, team doesn't convert to teams in plural, right? So if you have given teams apostrophe, that will be incorrect. It will be team apostrophe s. Now, so simply putting it, when you have a singular possessive, you add apostrophe s, like dogs apostrophe s, car apostrophe s. If you have a singular word ending in s, you still have an apostrophe s, right? So Charles apostrophe s, Bess apostrophe s, bus apostrophe s. Plural possessives, words ending in s, you will just add an apostrophe. So all plurals ending in s, you don't have apostrophe s, just apostrophe. So this is easy, but sometimes when you have a lot of options coming into the question with different forms, say one has apostrophe s, one has s apostrophe, one has just s added to it, you should not be confused. Now, if you have plural possessives that don't end in s, then again you add apostrophe s. Yeah, like children apostrophe s, octopi apostrophe s. Okay. Now let's look at some examples. The employees keep complaining about the store's different management styles. Now your word is stores apostrophe. Would that be correct? Hmm? Yes, who will tell me if stores stores apostrophe is correct? What is stores? Is it singular or plural? Can you see the screen properly? No? Just a moment. Can you see it now? Okay. So you have employees keep complaining about the store's different management styles. Stores is singular or plural? The word stores here would be singular. So what would your, how would you use the apostrophe here? The apostrophe should come in over here. Employees keep complaining about the store's different management styles. So this, your word is store. Store apostrophe S. Now, if you were to use stores as a chain of stores or many stores, here you are saying the stores. Yeah, so you are talking about one store. If it was used as a plural, then apostrophe after the S would be correct. Now let's look at this one. Based on the executive's decision, we are shutting down the project. So is this used correctly? So what is your noun here? Executive. If it is singular, then it would be apostrophe S. If you talk about plural, it will be apostrophe after the S. Right? Have you graded the students' essays? So we are talking about the students' essays. So in this case, we are talking about plural, apostrophe after the S. If you're talking about one student's essays, then it will be before. Right? Now there was a line to the men's room at the children's choral concert. Now if you see, men is plural in itself. So you will have apostrophe S. Children, plural in itself, apostrophe S. Right? Now sheep, what do you use sheep's wool for? Sheep is the same as singular or plural. So you just have an apostrophe S. People's, we must listen to the people's will. People is plural, so apostrophe S. Now fungi would be plural. Have the scientists discovered the fungi's origin? Is this correct? Fungi is plural, so apostrophe S after fungi would be correct. So now what did we do when we had the women exchange stories about their mother-in-law's comments, mothers-in-law's comments. So suppose you have, now when you had mother-in-law, the possessive was mothers-in-law. Yeah, the plural was mothers-in-law. Now when you have the possessive form, you will not add an apostrophe to the mothers. You will make the mothers plural and add the apostrophe to the law. Right? Got it? So this is important to remember. When you have a hyphenated word, add the S to the first noun to make it plural, and apostrophe S to the last word to get the possessive. Say passers by, that is hyphenated, apostrophe after by. Okay, so these are, take note of these, because you will get, when you are getting your options, you will get words where you have apostrophe before S or after S of editor, which will be incorrect. Right? The reporter honored their editor-in-chief's legacies or editors-in-chief's legacies. So whether it is editor or editors, your apostrophe is after the F. Right? So you have an apostrophe S coming in. Okay, now for open or unhyphenated compound nouns, these we had the hyphenated compound nouns. What do we do when you have a non-hyphenated compound noun? Say fire trucks. Yeah. So you won't say fire trucks. This is a compound noun. Apostrophe comes after the second word, or you just add an apostrophe there. Bus stops, you have this is plural, apostrophe after the S. Our mountain bike's tires are too low for his path. So our mountain bike's tires, apostrophe after the S. Now, if you think it is singular, then you can add an apostrophe before. Okay. Now we're talking about compound nouns when we have shared possession. So we have two nouns coming in. Say that's Jack and Jill's hill. So here we are talking about the hill belonging to both of them. Right? So when you're talking about the hill belonging to both Jack and Jill, where will your apostrophe go? After the second noun. Is my voice echoing?
No, ma'am.
Okay, I thought so. Okay, now if you look at this, George, Jerry, and Alien's relationship is not always friendly. Now here we have three people coming in. The relationship belongs to all of them. So we pick up the last noun and put an apostrophe S after that. Right? Now, have you been to mom and dad's house? So, mom and dad's house. Mom and dad comes in as a compound noun, apostrophe S after dad. But if you have multiple nouns which show different possession, say Jan's and Tony's car. So if you have Jan and Tony's car, here we have cars. So which shows that it is, they have different cars, right? So what do you have over here? Jan's car and Tony's car. So when you say Jan's car and Tony's car, you have different possessions. So you put an apostrophe to both the nouns, right? So science teachers and arts teachers' rooms. So you have, if you say the science teacher and arts teacher's room, then the room belongs to both of them together. In this case, you have different rooms we are talking about. So apostrophe in both the nouns. Got it? Say George's and Harriet's grades were good enough for them to graduate. So when you're talking about grades, we have different grades for George and Harriet. So Matilda's, Yevit's, and Carlos's ambitions. Yeah. If you see, we have ambitions. Not if you had ambition, then you would treat them as a shared possession. But here we have ambitions. That means each one had different ambitions, right? So when you have a plural noun, Did you hear about now the noun itself is in the plural form. So if you have a noun in the plural form, you just add an apostrophe after the S. So wells is in the plural form. We wouldn't add wellses. That would be incorrect. Right? Say Patels. Patel is a surname. We are referring to them as Patels. Apostrophe goes after the S. Anderson's, I never knew that was the Anderson's dog. Apostrophe after the S. Yeah. Now look at this sentence. Happy holidays from Anderson's. Would you use a possessive here? Is it talking about possessing something? No. So there we will not have any. If you get an option with an apostrophe after the S here, it would be wrong. Now, when you're talking about pronouns, would you use possessives? Would you use apostrophes? You wouldn't, right? So when you say his, hers, yours, etc., like his favorite food is the same as hers. Your pronouns are his and hers. Would you use apostrophes? No. So any option which would use apostrophe with hers will be wrong. Okay, so now when you are referring to possessive nouns, for irregular nouns which are used in the place of the nouns that you're using, then you will avoid repetition. Yeah, so pronouns are used to avoid repetition. So there should not be too many pronouns or too many nouns coming in. Say like, I don't have a calculator. Can I borrow yours? What is yours doing over here? Can I borrow your calculator? Instead of your calculator, you are saying just yours. I wish I had hair like hers. So what is this referring to? Her hair. So just possessive comes in. We don't repeat the subject again. Right? Sorry. Sarah's parking spot is closer than mine is. What is mine replacing?
My parking spot.
My parking spot. Right? Now, if you have its and there, it's, when you say it's, that means it belongs to. It is means it's with a apostrophe s is not the possessive. It means it is. It's a contraction. Yeah. Now, when you talk about there, again, we don't need any apostrophe. There means belongs to them. Now, in your exam, you may come across options which have there, THEY apostrophe RE and THERE. They may give you something like that. So you should know that the only one that is showing possession is THEIR. Okay. So when you have, now we use apostrophes for possessives, right? But apostrophes can be used in other places, that is in contractions. Yeah. So they will be giving you words to confuse you. So you should know that this apostrophe is possessive, this apostrophe is not possessive. So apostrophe s to singular nouns showing ownership, and a single apostrophe to nouns, to plural nouns ending in s. So this is the main thing that you have to remember. So now how do you know the question is about possessives? Obviously you will have options which will have apostrophes in different places, right? So you will know that this is about possessive nouns. So you will read the context, identify whether the apostrophe is showing contraction or possession. If it is showing possession, then you will be identifying the subject that you it is talking about, who or what. If contraction, then you eliminate, right? Okay, now let's get to some questions. Okay. So here are 5 questions where you have given the word, you have to fill in the word in the right format. Try to do them and give me the answer. First one. So dogs with, how would you spell it? D-O-G apostrophe S, right? Second one, her parents.
Apostrophe after the S.
Apostrophe after the S. Yeah, so here you will have apostrophe S. The children, dash. So
Apostrophe S.
Apostrophe S. This thesis main goals are outlined below. So you know this is used in the plural form. Yeah, so you have only apostrophe. That was Sergius' idea. So Sergius is the name ending in S. You have
After the
only apostrophe, right? Okay. Now here you have few sentences. So what you have to do is you have to see which ones you need to change the underlined parts. You have to see where the possession comes in. What else needs to be changed? So maybe you can also have a subject verb agreement error, or there would be no error. Read the sentence. So scientists have been tracking the Canadian geese's migratory patterns for the better part of 30 years, and they have begun to notice some unusual habits. So let's see, look at this portion first. Have been tracking, have begun, that seems to be correct. They're in the same verb forms, right? Now geese. Canadian geese's migratory patterns. The plural of geese plural of goose is geese in fact. So would you use ES over here? Because geese is already in the plural form. So what will you have over here? Just geese and apostrophe, right? Because you already have a plural form. Okay, let's look at this one. The fervency of the congregation's prayers was felt by everyone at the service as our fathers rang out left and right. You have two words where there is an apostrophe S. You have to see if they're correctly used. If you look at congregation's prayers, the fervency of the congregation's prayers. So whose prayers? Congregations, right? So apostrophe S over here is correct. Do you think it's correct? Yes or no? Quick. Now what is your noun over here? Congregation. Would you use it in a plural form or singular form? singular form. The congregation spread. So apostrophe S is correct. Yeah. Now we look at the next one. As our fathers rang out left and right. Do we need an apostrophe S over here? Our Father is referring to the prayer, right? Our Father in heaven, etc. So would you use an apostrophe S over here? No. So this would be wrong. Okay, let's look at another one. Journalists and animal enthusiasts alike flocked to wolves' enclosure to gawk at the pack's newest litter. So if there is no error, you would just say that, okay, it's all correct. But is there an error? You have, okay, enthusiasts alike, that seems to be correct, both of them. Now, wolves enclosure. And you have pack's newest litter. Wolf, that would be singular. Yeah. Journalists and animal enthusiasts alike flock to the wood. Now here, with if we get to the meaning of the sentence or the idea that the sentence is wanting to present, that is, a wolf had a pack of litter, right? They are new babies. So wolves apostrophe S would be correct, right? It's singular. And gawk at, that is, look at with awe, pack's new litter, newest litter. So pack is what? Singular or plural? Pack would be used as a collective noun, right? So pack apostrophe S would be correct. Got it? Okay. Now let's look at this one. With Phil being so new and inexperienced at the bakery job, the supervisor was constantly forced to check on things like the pastry's consistency and the loaf's quality. So the supervisor was checking on things like, now we are talking about a bakery. The pastries is plural. Okay. So just an apostrophe after that is correct. Yes or no? Right? And what about loaves? Loaf plural would be loaves, not VS. Right? So loaves, we are talking about a lot of loaves. Loaves apostrophe would also be correct. Okay, now let's get to some questions here. So this is from your classroom worksheet. You may look at your books. Read the sentence carefully. You have your options and tell me which option would be correct. Okay, Nishta, Pari, everyone can have your video on so that I can see you while you are answering. Sanvi. Yeah. So if you have your PDFs and you want to use it, fine. Otherwise, you can just follow from the screen. And when you are practicing, it would be preferable to use the PDF because you will be taking the online test. So you will get used to using the screen, because when you are using your paper format, then you can mark and all. but on the screen you don't have the option of marking. At the most you can highlight. Yeah, so you have to get used to the screen. So you can, it would be good to use your PDF while you are practicing. Okay, in this question, what is the answer?
I think it should be D.
It should be D. Sanvi, what do you think?
Ma'am, I'm still reading.
You think it's D?
I'm reading the question.
You're still reading the question.
It's
Okay.
D.
It's D. So, Nidini, Kesar, what do you think? You think it's D? Okay. So let's see. All of you say D. Let's see if it's correct. Now your question is, the sentence says, slam poet Elizabeth Avocado's debut novel, The Poet X, winner of 2018 National Book Award for Young People's Literature. Now if you see here, there are two commas, there's an additional information in the middle. Is composed of. So what is composed of? The debut novel is composed of, right? It's composed of dash. Now, what is it composed of? It is composed of, if you all see all of them, they have apostrophes placed at different points. So you know this is a possessive or apostrophe placement. So poems putatively written by the novel's protagonist. So we are not talking about poem apostrophe S, right? So A and B are eliminated. Poems putatively written by the novel's protagonist. S, novels are in the plural form. We are not looking for. We are not looking for one novel because it's talking about the debut novel. So D is your answer. C will be eliminated. Okay, now let's look at the next one. Read it carefully. Look at the clue. Do you need plural? Do you need singular?
I guess A.
Yes, ma'am. Option
A. Why do you think A? Give me the reason.
Because it's not just talking about a particular worker, it is talking about all the workers in present. So
Yeah.
apostrophe will come after the S and then rights won't come. And then there will be no apostrophe in rights. So it should be
Okay. So your clue here is employees, right? So you're talking about not one worker, many workers, apostrophe S. Now rights doesn't need an apostrophe, it just comes in plural form. So B, C, and D are eliminated. Very good. Okay, now let's look at this one. Yes. What's your answer? Can you be loud? D?
B.
B. Okay, you have B. Anybody with any other answer?
No, D. D.
D. Okay. Sanvi, what's your answer?
Ma'am, D.
D. Okay. Kshitij? Kshitij, I hope you are there. Haven't heard you. Yes, Kshitij, are you there?
क्या हुआ मैम? कॉल करूं?
हाँ, Kshitij is not responding.
Yes ma'am, I called him.
Okay, so yes, Sanvi, your answer was
D.
D. Pari?
Option D.
Option D. Okay. So who had option B as the answer? Let's see whether we need B
No,
or
ma'am,
need D.
I mistakenly said B, but my answer was D, so I
Your
corrected
answer
it.
was D. Okay. So now what are we looking at over here? The straighted dash walls are the result of erosion. Yeah. So we have a preposition over here, right? So obviously the subject which comes before the preposition will not be possessive, right? The patterns of canyons. So canyon is your subject, which shows possessive. Now you have over here, so obviously it will be singular. We won't go with plural. So we don't need apostrophe in pattern, and we don't go with the plural possessive. Okay. And let's look at this, the next one over here. Here you have the it's coming in. And you have something with stages, apostrophe s, only stages. So let's see what is the answer.
D.
D is the answer. So what are we talking about? We are talking about Italy's Tower of Pisa. Yeah. So, and has been leaning southwards since the initial dash construction over 800 years ago. So obviously now you have stages in all of them, but we won't have stages as possessive, and its possessive will be only its, nothing else. Okay. Now let's look at number 5. We still have a little bit of time. Okay, here it says, by virtue of dash medical training, PAPs can perform many of the jobs traditionally done by doctors. Yeah. So here you have THERE, THEY apostrophe RE, THEIR, his or her. What do you think should come in?
C.
C.
Pardon?
C.
C. Okay. Anybody thinks it should be something else? No? Everyone agrees with C? Yeah. So we are talking about PAPs, which is plural. So we will go with there. Okay, we'll just do the other ones also since we have some time. Okay, let's look at this one. Number 6. Yeah. Look at your options and figure out what can be eliminated. Which one is coming in as the possessive? You have comics, superheroes. So which one is possessive and which one is singular or plural? I think in your volume, if you look at the options, it is a little. So you can, okay, option B in your volumes has apostrophe S. It shouldn't have apostrophe S. It should be just superhero. So you can correct it. Option B should be only superhero, not apostrophe S. Option B or D? D. B for ball. Okay. So you think it is comics apostrophe S superhero. So do you think it's correct? Now, when you talk about DC Comics, do you say DC Comic? It's a pretty common name. Everyone has heard of it. Do you see DC? Do you say DC Comic or do you say DC Comics? You say DC Comics, right? So the proper name itself is DC Comics. So would you use apostrophe S? No, you will use apostrophe after the S because the name itself is comics, right? Now, if you look at superheroes, would you use a superheroes? No, you're using a possessive in comics. Do you need a possessive with hero? No, right? So you will go with D. We don't need a possessive with hero. So we will not go with A. So A, B, and C are eliminated, right? Okay, just 2 more to go. You can finish this off so you don't have this for homework. And you have to pick up speed a little.
C.
C.
Option C.
Option C. Everyone thinks it's C, or do you have a different answer? No? So anyone tell me the reason why you chose C and eliminated the others?
Ma'am, because here we are talking about one singular word and it's ocean. So oceans must be plural without
Yeah,
an.
and the oceans belong to the world.
Yes.
Right? So we have C and not the others. Okay, we'll just finish up with the 8th one. D? D for Delhi. Okay. So what is the there referring to? Photographers. So you will not go with its, you will go, and obviously IT apostrophe S and THERE are eliminated. And photographers is plural, so you will go with there. Right? So this is what you will, these are the types of questions you will be getting in the possessives and plurals. So usually we have to see whether the word that is given to you is in the proper plural form or not. Do we need an apostrophe S or do we need an apostrophe after the S? Right? So everything clear? Any doubts so far?
No, ma'am.
No?
No, ma'am.
Okay, I hope it wasn't boring. I was a little down, so may sound boring.
No, ma'am, it wasn't.
Thank you. Okay, so I think we've just finished in time. And so what are you going to do? All that we have done so far, go through them, keep revising the rules, right? And have you taken any class tests so far for the new format? Did you have any class tests last Sunday? Did you take the test and got your scores? Yeah. So have you analyzed your answers? So always analyze your answers, write down your doubts so that when we have the doubt solving sessions, you can bring up your doubts and clear them, right? Okay then, thank you everybody. I'll see you again next Sunday. Saturday you will be having the maths class and Sunday we'll have verbal again. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. Good day.
Thank you, ma'am.
Good day. Good afternoon, sir.
Yes, ma'am. Good afternoon. ठीक है मैडम, आप करिए लॉग आउट.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
How is it going? इसका मतलब क्या है? हाँ, अच्छा जा रहा है, अच्छा नहीं जा रहा है. रेगुलरली अटेंड कर रहे हो? तुम आ गई क्या वहां से वापस?